Hey everyone, this is Oscar from Underdog, and yes, it is winter in Brussels right now. I prefer to be cozy, even on camera. Last week I showed you how to go from a pretty beginner level drum loop to, I would say, a pretty confident, solid, assertive, intermediate, or even advanced level drum loop. And all that was a drum loop. But the next step, if you want to turn a drum loop into a story that's going to actually last for a while, you're going to have to build in some changes. And in particular, what I think of here is some turnarounds. What is a turnaround? A turnaround is just when you loop a certain drum loop a few different times again and again. At the end of that cluster, at the end of that phrase, what you're going to do is just make some changes to the drum loop so that when you refresh it back from the start, that it's going to feel fresh and your audience is not going to feel bored listening to the same thing again and again. It doesn't have to be a huge change, but just for instance, introducing a few new sounds or changing the position of some sounds just at the end can be enough to freshen things up. To make your own turnarounds, I want to show you today a technique which I'm going to call glitch turnarounds, and it sounds a little something like this. You hear how that extra little sound there refreshes your ears and makes you a bit more willing to listen to the same loop again. And having a couple of variations on this glitch turnaround and can really add some unpredictability and some pleasant surprises to your track. The tool that I'm going to use today is called Reason, and I'm going to use it as an audio mangling tool. Thank you to Reason for sponsoring today's video. You don't need Reason for this, by the way. There are many other glitch and mangling plugins out there which you can use, but Reason is a perfect example of a very useful one that is very versatile, so that's what I'm going to use today. You can use the same workflow using whatever tools you've got. I want to hop straight into showing you how to do this, so let's roll the tide. If you'd like to learn the foundations of electronic music production, I made a course on that, which you can find on courses.underdog.brussels. So if you prefer to learn in a structured context instead of having all these like little individual tips and tricks, but more like an actual education, be sure to check out that course. If you want to help the channel grow, like the video and subscribe as well. Thank you very much. All right, let's get into it. So imagine you've got yourself this drum groove, right? I'll just play the loop once, just so we can refresh our memory on what that sounds like dry. All right, not bad. I like the sound design, I like the movement, I like almost everything about it, except that it's very, very loopy, right? It's just a loop. It never changes. And so one of the main ways to break out of your loop is to build in a turnaround. And many times to make a turnaround, all you got to do, for instance, is double the clap or something at the end. Imagine that you do something like hop. You know, that can be enough to make a turnaround, just something that freshens up the mind. However, today what we're going to do is we're going to run this entire drum loop into audio mangling and beat, repeat, and stutter plugins. And we're going to resample, that means record the audio from it, so that we have different layers that are derived from the original material, so they have some kind of audio relationship to it. They don't come from a totally different planet, but they're much more chaotic and playful. And so we're going to record a bunch of them and then layer them in whenever we want to freshen up the drum loop. So to make my life easier, what I already have is a drum bus where all my drums go into that drum bus. So I can just solo that drum bus. I don't have to have any of the synthesizers playing or anything. I don't want to talk about those today. Today is just about the glitch edit. And so what we're going to do on this drum bus is we're going to put on some creative effects. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my plugins and I'm going to put on the Reason Rack plugin effect. What that is basically all the effects that are built into this other DAW of Reason. They're now available to you as a VST, so you can get really creative mangling and linking up everything together inside of this Reason VST. And so the input of this Reason Rack is the audio that's running through the channel, and the output is whatever comes out of these effects. So for instance, as a crazy example, this alligator filter gate is a really weird plugin. Let me flick through a few presets so I can show you what I mean. This isn't a bad one. And so what I recommend doing at this point is not being shy and just stacking a whole bunch of weird effects on top of one another. And then what we're going to do in a moment is start recording from that. And it's going to be like a sonic exploration. We're just going to create layers and layers and layers that later on we're going to clean up and layer into our composition. So let's add another device. Let's add another effect. Let's add, for example, the synchronous effect modulator. And in there, just take something called a slice and dice. I don't know what it's going to be like. And let's have a listen. Yeah, this is already pretty cool. I'm going to add another device. I'm going to add the pulverizer. Listen to this. This is mad. Okay, let's start recording this, right? So I'm going to stop my playback. What we're going to need to record this, by the way, my audio is stuck, so let me just turn this off. So what I'll do is I'll create an audio track, which I've created one here. And I'm going to call this the drum glitch resampler. Enter. And on the drum glitch resampler, what I'll do is I'll set the input as the new drum bus. There we go. New drum bus right here. And hit record on there. And then hit record at the top, or F9 on my keyboard. So when I hit F9, right now you can just see it's just a drum groove, right? Just a drum beat. But let's reactivate this. Here we go. Glitch layers. Let it run for a while. Just let it run. It's gonna like play itself. What we're doing here is like we're using curated randomness. We're letting the computer generate randomness, and then we're going to curate the parts of it that we want, okay? And so once it's recorded a whole bunch of that, what I'll usually do is I'll zoom out and I'll move it outside of the drum loop. And then I can keep recording new bits and keep moving them outside of the drum group, so that then eventually over the course of this entire track, I've got a whole bunch of raw material that I can then slice up and layer in as I see fit. Remember that when you are recording things on a loop like this, it doesn't overwrite itself. If you double click on the audio file and you zoom out, you see everything that has happened here before as well. So whenever you want, you can still stretch it out and find the bits that were good earlier, okay? So this gives you an incredible amount of power. Let me do a little bit more exploration just to find a few more timbres and sweet spots, and then I'll layer them in and you'll see the result. Just keep recording all the time and then flick through presets. That's awesome. Okay, that's enough. Now we turn off the reason rack on the original, and all of this material that we've created is now ours to do with what we want. However, there's a few things that we have to keep in mind. That is, we can layer it in, but we might have to still do some audio editing to make this work in the context of our mix. For instance, there's a lot of low frequency content here. Maybe we're just gonna want the mids. So for example, I'll copy some of it into my drum loop, make sure that the track is off, just solo the drum group, look up close, and let's make a turnaround, a 4-bar turnaround here. So instead of that one that I did as the example, I'll use this one. And I don't know what section was good, but this little percussive part probably looks good. So I'll deactivate the parts that I don't want by hitting 0 on the keypad. And let's listen to what this thing sounds like. That's a great sound, look at that. So let's just bring it in and listen to it in the context of a loop. Awesome, it's a bit too loud. Awesome. Now, it's got a bit too much sharp highs for me, and I don't want that to disrupt the balance of the loop. So what I'll do is I'll put an EQ 8 on there, and maybe, yeah, roll off some of the ultra highs, but also most of the lows, because I just want the upper mids, like up here. Let's see. There you go, that was one attempt. Now let me try it with one of the other ones that I think was maybe a little bit more promising. Like for instance over here, let's see what this would sound like. Oh, that's a nice sound. Like, cool. That's weird. Yeah, maybe that'll work. Yeah, there we go. So we start to add in really subtle glitch layers and to give a bit of depth and storytelling power to our drum loop. We can do different turnarounds at different points of our song. We can slice these up and treat these just as audio samples. We don't have to respect them in any way because the beat is already carrying the punch of the song. So we can just use these as textures, as grains, as ear candy, as many people like to call it. This is going to be part of a project that hopefully gets released in January or February next year. So follow the link on SoundCloud if you want to stay up to date on this. As I mentioned, have a look at my Foundations course if you want to learn in a more structured context. Come say hi on our Discord channel if you want to show us what you've done with this. And until next time, stay producing, be good to one another, and take care. Bye-bye.